Ford built the 300 Inline-Six from 1965 through 1996, more than 3 decades, and gave it a reputation for being almost impossible to kill. Then Ford replaced it while it was still doing its job. Here's the part everyone gets wrong. It wasn't retired for being too reliable to sell. That's the myth. The real story is that the truck changed, the rules changed, and Ford already had its next engines ready. 3 pressures ended the 300, but one of them mattered far more than the other 2, and it's the one that tells you whether buying one today is smart or just nostalgic. So, let me give you the short answer up front, then show you the part that actually matters. When Ford redesigned the F-150 for 1997, it brought a new platform, new emissions and refinement expectations, and a completely different engine lineup. The 300 didn't fit where trucks were heading. That's the broad reason. Which single pressure made keeping it genuinely pointless is the question worth staying for. And here's the twist to hold on to. The same traits that got it replaced are exactly what make a 300 truck valuable today. But only if the truck around it survived. First, the part that isn't a myth. This engine really was that tough, and a few specific design choices are the whole reason. Ford supported the crankshaft with 7 main bearings. One of the choices that helped the long crank stay stable under years of load. It ran its camshaft off timing gears, not a belt or chain, no rubber to rot, no chain to stretch, which quietly deleted one of the most common ways an engine ages itself to death. And it was a long stroke design that made around 260 pound-feet of torque low in the rev range. An engine built to make useful torque without constantly chasing high RPM generally lives an easier life. On top of that, it was about as simple as an engine gets. Cast iron, a single carburetor for most of its life, and very little on it to go wrong in the first place. But here's the number to hold on to. For all that toughness, it never made big power. Even after fuel injection arrived in 1987, it made about 150 horsepower. That was its strength and its weakness at the same time. And it's going to matter in a minute. A spec sheet doesn't build a legend though. Where this engine lived is what did. The 300 wasn't only a pickup engine, Ford used versions of it in heavier trucks, generators, pumps, wood chippers, tractors, and delivery fleets. That matters because those engines lived under steady all-day load, not weekend cruising. In the heaviest jobs, Ford even gave the 300 forged crankshafts and connecting rods, because those motors ran hard at 3,000 to 4,000 RPM and never got a day off. When an engine survives the ugliest work there is, it earns trust on the easy stuff. The F-150 that hit 300,000 miles wasn't lucky. It was running a motor that had already proven itself hauling. You'll hear the legends, million-mile engines, the truck that ran for months with no oil. Those stories are mostly folklore, but the reputation underneath them is real. High-mileage 300s are common enough that many owners report well past 300,000 miles on the original engine with little more than oil changes. The legend didn't need the exaggeration. So the reputation is earned, which makes the real question sharper. If it was this good, why did production actually end? Because around 1997, 3 things changed at once. Reason 1, the truck changed. Ford completely redesigned the F-150 with a lower, more aerodynamic body, built around a new set of compact V6 and overhead cam V8 powertrains. Parks a 1996 next to a 1997, and you can see it. The hood drops and the whole nose gets lower. A tall, upright Inline-Six worked against that redesign instead of with it. Sometimes an engine doesn't die because of how it runs. It dies because of the shape of the truck they want to build next. Reason 2, expectations changed. By the mid-90s, buyers wanted more power, smoother running, and better everyday manners than a low-revving workhorse was ever built to give. And emissions standards kept tightening. A 30-year-old 150 horsepower architecture was fighting uphill on every one of those fronts. Keeping it competitive would have meant pouring money into certifying and updating an aging design year after year. Reason 3, and this is the one that really sealed it, the business case disappeared. Ford already had newer engines that fit the new trucks and lined up with its wider plans. The 4.2-liter V6 as the new base engine, and the separate 4.6-liter modular V8 above it. Once those existed, Spending money to keep tooling and certifying an old, tall, slow six made no economic sense at all. Put those together and you get the honest answer. It wasn't one fatal flaw. The entire business case around the engine disappeared at once, and that's a very different thing from they killed it for being too good. Which brings us to the best way to say it. The 300 didn't fail the test changed. Simple. When the world wanted refined, tall when the truck got low, torquey and slow when buyers wanted power. The engine didn't lose, its job disappeared. It was, in fact, the last gasoline inline-six Ford ever put in a North American car or light truck. The end of an era, not a failure. But here's why this isn't just history. And it's the loop I told you to hold on to. Everything that made the 300 obsolete in 1997 is exactly what makes one worth owning now. Simple, cheap to keep, and easy to work on, with almost none of the complex electronics that make modern trucks expensive when they break. People who know trucks actively hunt these down. Just be honest about what it is. It's a low-power work engine, not a modern half-ton. It can cruise, but it won't accelerate, merge, or pass like a current truck, especially with tall gearing or a load. One thing worth knowing before you shop, the 300 was carbureted up through 1986 and fuel injected from 1987 on. The early carbureted trucks are the simplest of all, but they can be fussier to start cold and less pleasant to drive every day. The 1987 and later fuel-injected versions are the easier daily drivers while still being dead, simple by modern standards. And remember, it's a 30-year-old vehicle, so the engine being tough doesn't mean the truck is trouble-free. Cooling system neglect, aging fuel injection and ignition, vacuum leaks, exhaust manifold problems, worn transmissions and differentials, and brittle old wiring are all real and all common. So, here's the rule that actually protects your money. The engine is usually the least scary part of the purchase. It's the rest of the truck that costs you. What kills these trucks is frame rust, cab and body corrosion, rotted floors and bed supports, not the motor. On these old F-Series, look hard at the cab corners and rockers, the bed mounts, and the frame rails toward the rear and around the shackle hangers, because that's where the rot hides, and that's what turns a cheap truck into a money pit. So, when you go look at one, check it in this order. Cold startup and steady oil pressure, then the cooling system, then the frame and cab mounts, the floors, the transmission or clutch, and the wiring. Buy the body and the frame, not the engine. A clean, rust-free truck with a tired 300 is a fixable project. A rusted-out shell with a perfect motor is a great engine wrapped in a problem. That's the whole story of the engine Ford built for 3 decades and then walked away from, not because it was too good, but because good had quietly changed underneath it. If you want to know exactly which years of the classic F-150 are worth hunting for and which ones to walk away from, watch this one next. I break down the best and worst of the era and what to check before you hand over $1. I'll see you there.